Back here on Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan on Trust the Profits YouTube page. We avoided the red in episode 30. Let's see how we do today. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Trust the Profits YouTube page. My name is Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down with Colin, and I have another new voice on the show, which I always encourage. It's me, Gino B. What's up, Gino?
Colin, how you doing, buddy? I had to come on this because as soon as we're done recording, I'm going to ask you to come on my show in a couple weeks and help me out with Derby and Oaks. So I definitely had to return the favor and talk some races with you.
Absolutely. I love, the point of this show, Gino, is to get voices out there. We all look at the races differently, and we use Daily Double as what I think is a great tool to introduce new players because you're not trying to score pick 4, pick 5, which, as we know, are very difficult. I throw this up not to brag about me, but to give you comfort in knowing that all my guests that come on are in the red, so you don't have
Beautiful.
any pressure to get it right.
Awesome.
I was very worried last week. I've gone 30 episodes, and I was green the entire time. I was down to 64 cents, and we pulled out a small score last weekend to get us back up to 785. So
beautiful.
We will keep that in the green and see how long we can keep this streak going.
It's impressive after 31 of them, right?
I am proud of it. I was up to like $70, so you know the fear was real last week when we were down to 64 cents. But the number has not turned red, and we're going to keep it that way. This week we are looking at, this is for Saturday, April 22nd, Keeneland, race 8 and race number 9. Race 8 is going 1.5 miles on the turf. This is the Grade 2 Elkhorn. We have a field of 10. Some rather older horses here, 2 9-year-olds, and those are the ones that you immediately, at least I was immediately looking at, because they're the ones with the distance experience. As I mentioned, this is 1.5 miles. And you have Channel Maker, who I always seem to pick for some reason or another, but he also won this race last year. So, Gino, what did you see when you looked at race 8? Where'd you land?
Yeah, Channel Maker was the horse who kind of jumped off the page to me because, one, like you said, all of the experience he has going long. He won this race last year at a fair price of like 7-2, and I didn't see all that much speed in this race, that much early speed. And what's nice about Channel Maker is he can go quickly, but he can also sit off a little bit too if he has to. Like if somebody else goes and wants to get aggressive, he'll have no problem tracking right behind him. I love the rail draw for him also in here. I like the fact that he's a little bit fresh. He's been off a few months, and I think he should be ready to rock here. So in the doubles, for me, Channel Maker was a must use because I felt like he would have a really good tactical advantage. And if you're putting a double ticket together, he was definitely one I would recommend including.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I actually left Channel Maker off my ticket. I'm going to play this whole 9-year-old angle of, does he still have it, as they say, right? And you talked about the lone speed on the front, and I definitely saw that. However, I also saw on this number 3, Rising Empire, that Florent Geroux was aboard for the second time. And if you look at that last race, Florent Geroux got this horse forwardly placed in a Grade 2 at Fairgrounds, going 1 1/8 miles. That was the race that, if you remember, Spooky Channel won on that day. This horse was 9-1, and I'm sorry, by Empire Makers, the average winning distance was highest out of all the horses if you go by Brisnet and use the formula that they have of 7.8 and 7.6. So I think the distance isn't going to be a problem. And I'm hoping that this 5-year-old will be the one that's actually putting some pressure on Channel Maker, and maybe that can be the angle. I also like the 6-1 price that I'm getting on Rising Empire. Who else did you use?
And when you think about Geroux, you think about getting aggressive, just like that, right? Like we see him doing that many times, getting a horse, getting a little bit aggressive with them. Would not be surprised to see Rising Empire out there close and pushing it. So I use Channel Maker of the horses who I think logical players, and then with Channel Maker, I'm going to use a couple other prices in here, kind of fun upside horses, because I always think about these long distance marathon races and this division in general. We don't have a ton of races that are 1.5 miles like this and beyond. So the division isn't really deep. There's not a ton of form. I always like horses, kind of like what you mentioned with Rising Empire, sort of peaking horses that might be able to take a step forward and take a big step up because they're in really good form. I was able to find one of those horses. To me, that was Howe Street. the number 7, who is just a total wild card. He's only raced 3 times. We really have no idea how good he is and what level of competition he's been defeating, but it's really tough to knock any of his 3 performances. His first start came back in April of 2022. Then he was off for like 9 months following that. And in his 2 starts back, both of them as a 4-year-old, he's been visually really impressive. He took a step forward. If he takes one more step forward, that could put him right there. And we're talking about prices. He's a very nice 10-1. I included one other, Colin, on my double. So I'm going to go 3 deep, and then I'm going to single in the last leg. The other horse is also a price, and that's another mystery, the 4. He's not quite as consistent as some of the others in here, but I think he's trending back into a good race. 2 starts back at Sam Houston. He was the runner-up that day after taking the lead early. And then last time out, he moved all the way up to within a length, but he was wide. And I think that wide trip really ended up catching up with him. So for me, I'm going to go 3 deep in the Elkhorn. I'm going to use the 1, 4, and 7 for the first leg of my double.
Yeah, you're getting second off the layoff for another mystery, which is a nice angle as well. Real quickly, going back to Rising Empire, which hits upon what you said, the horse had been running on the dirt, and the last 3 races were on the turf, and you see that gradual, continual increase. So they switch him to the turf, get him forwardly placed. He's shown some improvement there, and like you said with number 7, House Street, another step forward puts him there. Well, guess what? I also took 7 House Street on my ticket as well. I love the 10-1. I think that last race was strong. Coming up from Gulfstream, I'm hoping similar to you, exactly what you said, which is a horse that's lightly raced. And if I'm going against Channel Maker, I'm surely going to be okay taking number 7 House Street. So I went Rising Empire, House Street. The other horse I used was a little bit of a short price, and that's the 2 Value Engineering. Sure. Another horse, the Channel Maker and Value Engineering are those 2 horses that I kind of always just tend to lean on. Last 2 races I thought were very strong. Actually, the last 3 races, I think that this horse is okay with the distance. Michael Maker's a barn that I always am attracted to. Sired by Lemon Drop Kid, has a 7.9 average winning distance. And on the dam side, Dynaformer on the turf is a horse that you don't see that as much anymore. But to me, it was just, the eyes are blinking when I see that. This horse was previously trained by Chad Brown. Since moving to the Maker barn, this horse is a different horse. 2 wins and a 2nd place. I think, I'm not crazy about the price, but I'm going to take a shot with him. So I go 2, 3, 7.
And no knocks. And if of the shorter prices there too, I think the way the race looks to shape up, I would much prefer using the 2 Value Engineering that you did than maybe the 5 who might have to come from farther back. Value Engineering seems a little bit more versatile too. So if they're not going all that fast, he can still be placed maybe 4th or 5th, not too far out of it, and move into it. Whereas Red Knight is a little bit more of that stone cold closer who's going to probably have to pass them all.
Yeah, and I totally just threw out the 9-year-olds. Total bias. So
yeah.
Sometimes
you're an ageist over here, Colin.
Ageism, I know, and hopefully they will show me that you shouldn't do that. So let's look at race 9, where we both went with a single, but we did not land on the same signal. This is the Ben Ali Stakes. It's a field of 7 going a mile and 3/16. We switch from the turf to the dirt. Now you'll notice a lot of these names, for those of you that may be joining in for this year's Kentucky Derby. Maybe you don't follow horses a whole lot, but a lot of these names you're going to recognize, such as Skippy Longstocking, Tawny Port, Pioneer of Medina, Trademark, horses that were on the trail last year, and obviously even raced in a couple of those Triple Crown races. So field of 7, where did you go in race 9?
Yeah, you mentioned we both have singles in here. We're going to single different horses, but I will preface the fact that I thought that, to me, there were 2 horses in this race that I was going to use, and my analysis will just be more of like how I'm going to wager on it, because I do think Skippy Longstocking is the horse to beat. I do think if you're playing maybe pick 4s or pick 5s and you have the ability to double up a little bit in here, then I would use the 4 and the 7. To me, the horse to beat is Skippy Longstocking. The horse to bet might be Tawny Port. Just sort of looking at Tawny Port from last year, I really became a fan of him towards the end of the year. I thought he was becoming a really nice 3-year-old in that middle part of the season. He wins the Ohio Derby. He comes back in the Jim Dandy with a really nice effort. And then the Pennsylvania Derby at the end of the year, a little over his head, and then he's off following that. He shows back up as a 4-year-old. And in his first start, he's only 3-1 in the mine shaft. And I think it was a race he just needed. They didn't really go, he didn't get the trip he needed. Then last time out, he's chasing Last Samurai in the race where you expect him to really move forward. He moved forward a little bit on speed figures, but in that race, the top 4 finishers, they were 4th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. All of them close up. He was 5th. He was the only horse in that race that closed. It was just a merry-go-around race. I think this race may set up a little bit better for him because I look down to the rail. I think you're going to get Trademark and Call Me Fast to at least be forwardly placed in here. I wouldn't be shocked if Pioneer Medina is close. We know Skippy Longstocking can also sit close. So in this small field, there might be 3 or 4 horses kind of pushing it. I'm thinking Tawny Port, 3rd start back off the layoff, the blinkers on, get him a little closer, a little more focused. I think he's the value in this race, and I would hook him up in any way with Skippy Longstocking. The way I played my double, I singled Tawny Port, but again, I do feel like the 4 is the horse to beat. Tawny Port, the value of the race. I'm combining names right here, all over the place here.
I like that. That's okay. But I wrote down my notes to say the exact thing, which was what your last note was there, which is they add blinkers. So he's probably going to be closer to the lead in a race that there's obviously a little bit more speed than there was in the last race. But getting Pratt aboard for the first time under Cox, adding the blinkers to me, and when I saw the 8-1 price, because I handicapped before I saw the prices, yep. I was like, oh man, I kind of wish I had Tawny Port. So I definitely agree with you there. But I did single number 4, Skippy Longstockings. Before I talk about Skippy Longstockings, though, if I asked you, just looking at this list of names, which horse has made over $1 million in earnings, who would you think was that horse?
I know you would say Skippy Longstocking, right?
Right. And
you
it's
would
actually
think being in the big races, being in the Belmont and the Preakness, but Rattle and Roll, he's a little under the radar too, right? He's a little sneaky. You sort of dive into his form. It's tough to knock a lot of his form overall. He's just another one of those horses who seems like his lack of early speed might hurt him in some races where the others can just get a jump on him.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much that Remington Park Grade 3 paid out to him, maybe to attract him there. That took up, because he only has 5 wins. But when I saw the $1 million, I'm like, wow, I can't believe Rattle and Roll is the one. If I had said who on this list is the one that's made $1 million, he wouldn't be there. And Skippy Longstock has made $862,000, so nothing to sneeze at there. The thing with Skippy Longstock is I just think the class here is better. This is a winner of 3 Grade 3 races, easy for me to say. In the last 5 races, he ran in 2 Grade 1s, which is the Pennsylvania Derby and the Pegasus World Cup, losing to Taba and Art Collector. And I just think that the company there is probably a little bit better than what else you've seen in this race. Pioneer Medina, I think needs to be forwardly placed in order to run well. If he is, he's on the rail. If he is, I think he's a threat, but at 7-2, I wouldn't necessarily be as interested in him if he was a higher price, for sure. The other higher price that I would throw out but would be interested in is actually the horse that's 2 for 2 at the distance here, and that's number 6, Happy American. Look at some of the horses this one's raced against: West Willpower, Olympia twice, and going back to 2 wins at Churchill back in 2021. Happy American was kind of the next up for me after Skippy Longstockings, kind of in that same ballpark with Tawny Port if I was going to use a price.
Yeah, and it was so weird because he got really good earlier this year with those back-to-back victories, and then all of a sudden he throws in a clunker. The last race, I think you can make an excuse for because he didn't run that poorly, and West Willpower just got a big jump on him. The top 2, West Willpower and Art Collector, it's a nice group. But I agree with you. If you're going to come back to someone, he's not far off, and he should offer you some really nice value.
Yeah, James Grant stays aboard for the Neil Pesson out of Run Happy. So that is our daily double. Like I like to tell my viewers, Gino, you could put together a pick 5 for $90, $100, and then Twitter's going to attack you and say, hey, you suck. You cost me $90. Well, when you join Double and Down, they can't come at us for $3, right? It's maybe half a coffee these days.
Especially when we've got a couple prices along the way too, right? So if we were able to connect the 7 in the first race, then you and I are both sitting nice with a possibility for a good score for just $3. I don't think either one of us has the morning line favorite in the first leg of the daily double either. So nice value here, and always happy to come and double down with you anytime you need.
We love it. So Gina goes 147 with the 7. That'll cost you $3. This is for Keeneland, Saturday, April 22nd, race number 8 and race number 9. I go 237 and I single to the 4. That will cost you $3. So that guarantees me another week of staying in the green as well. You may have noticed
I love that.
There was some method to the madness of let's survive one more week, and
there you go.
We get away from those 3-year-olds, which have been a little bit of a trouble. I've been 1 out of 2, 1 out of 2 so often. One thing I didn't touch on, I do want to ask you real quickly before you go: is the daily double a bet that you have in your arsenal? Do you play it a lot? Where does it kind of fall in how much you bet?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the handicapping of a card, because I, like you, have been someone that has gotten caught into the pick 4s, the pick 5s, because they're a lot bigger, right? Pools. What do I want? I want to get the payouts, but sometimes you don't like that sequence, right? Sometimes there's a race or two in the sequence that you don't like. For me, one time, a lot of times I'll think about that and wish that the pick 4 could start one race later. And that's what's nice about the rolling doubles and the rolling pick 3s, right? You can pick which ones you want wherever you want. And at some places, they're rolling exotics all throughout. They'll take out really low on the doubles. I know at Sam Houston, I played there a lot when you still were able to play there last year. And I love playing rolling doubles and rolling pick 3s all throughout the card. So, especially when you're a price player and you're trying to hit prices race after race after race, we know that a favorite or two is going to come in. This might make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, and I love that you can see probables. If you look at the probable field, you know what you're going to get paid out when you're looking at a daily double. So where can people find your content?
It's me, Gino B, on Twitter. You can subscribe to my podcast, That's What G Said. Really excited about what's coming up. Doing some work with Santa Anita, helping covering their races. Louisiana Downs will be starting soon, so I also help over there. Think I'll be helping providing some coverage over at Woodbine as well. So lots of stuff happening, and covering all sports, Star Wars, Marvel, you name it, we've got it on the podcast. So thanks again, Colin. Love talking racing with you.
You are a jack of all trades. Give him a follow, give me a like and a subscribe, and we hope that you hit your daily doubles.